Chapter 5. Objectivity versus Subjectivity. So far we have considered nothing, everything, and the thing itself. Now we are going to divide the same thing into object and subject and ask ourselves, what is the difference between the objective qualities and the subjective qualities given to the same thing? Now again, what is the object of the shoe? What are its properties? Well, if we are going to pay homage to the root philosophical usage of the word dimensionalism, let's get the three obvious spatial dimensions out of the way first. In the real world, the shoe holds volumetric space. It has length pertaining to the length of the foot of the shoe wearer. It has width to create a plane from which the entirety of the foot can rest on and make contact with the shoe. And it has some indication of height to properly holster the shoe onto the foot. Otherwise, the shoe would not be dimensionally different from the floor. We can also describe the object as going through time. Or in even better terms, once the shoe begins to exist, it continues to exist for a duration. Once the object is a physical and tangible entity, it will not go from existence to non-existence without some causal agent or causal effect interfering with the object. Listen here. Duration and causality represent two different iterations of physical time dimensions. If shoe X begins to exist now, the path towards its non-existent state Y is not set in stone from our perspective. The shoe could end up burning in a volcano. It could be blown up by a bomb. It could last for millions of years preserved in dirt until it naturally decomposes. Or it could split into two unshoe pieces while being unearthed by future intelligent life on this planet. It could last for billions of years in the vacuum of space away from all other sources of mass, until a stray gamma ray obliterates it. It could meet its end in a star or a black hole. All of these scenarios for this shoe X will most likely be actualized in some universe within Omega everything. But they will all have some indication of duration, from which observers of the same universe would be able to determine by guesstimation or knowledge how long shoe X has existed. All of these durations combined make up the causality field. And it requires two time-like dimensions. This is the multiverse. The shoe also has mass and is a key objective feature of the shoe. If the shoe didn't have mass but still took up space for a time, it would be made of light, like a hologram. And light is produced from the fourth and final primary objective feature of the shoe, from photons in the electromagnetic field. What colors the shoe refracts and the charge of the atoms making up the shoe come from this electromagnetism. All objective qualities of a thing can be derived from these four primary physical dimensions. M, E, L, T. Where is the mass, the electromagnetism, the length, and time? These four dimension types can tell you any objective fact about anything within the existing universe. Now, what is the subject of the shoe? What are the shoe's subjective qualities? First, the shoe can be measured in quanta, math terms. But what exactly is the quanta of the shoe? Well, it is subjective. We can say the shoe is 1/2. We can say the shoe is 1. We can say that the shoe is 2.5. We can say that the shoe is 16,472. We can say the shoe is 6.6 times 10 to the 24th. If you were feeling really feisty, we can also say the shoe is 0. Without any of the objective units telling us what these quantitative attributes of the shoe are, the exact numbering of the shoe is completely up to the individual making the calculation. So although the art of quantitative measurements can have an air of objectivity, this is often just a misattribution of the number line overlapping physical properties. Take a measuring stick for determining length. It may have inches, millimeters, centimeters, or some length unit telling us that a certain length is 1, and double that length is 2. Just like how we would imagine a physical and objective real number line would behave. But the number line which we measure one length unit is capable of growing and contracting. The length of 1 inch is especially arbitrary. Instead of one length unit being 1 inch, we can say one length unit is instead 1 foot, thereby making the number of an inch 1/12 instead of 1. Let me tell you, math and physics are so beautiful together. But we must remember that their union is a marriage of sorts. Math and physics are not the same thing. If you shoot a 1 at me from a cannon, I'll be unscathed. But if you shoot a 1 kilogram cannonball at me, I'll be dead. So although I have heard multiple physicists say, shut up and calculate, I say it's better to shut up and think first. Ask what the physical units are first via a dimensional analysis. Ask what exactly you are calculating. There's no point in calculating first if you have no philosophical comprehension of the numbers, the units, and their relation to each other. And this philosophical comprehension is at the root of the other type of subjective quality we can give to anything. The shoe can be measured in qualia. We can use language or otherwise descriptive terms. But what exactly is the qualia of the shoe? Well, it is subjective. On a scale between a horrific monster and a bikini model, I rate this shoe as a solid construction worker. A little rough around the edges, but once you break it in along with the other shoe, it'll get the job done. We can say the shoe is beautiful, ugly, efficient, safe, worn, uncomfortable, too tight, too big, too wide, etc. What is too tight for me may be just right for you. What is efficient for you, like in the case of some running cleats, may be dangerous for a baby. What may be the perfect color combination for me may be a color combination so hideous from your perspective that you will want to yeet the shoe straight into a volcano to never be observed by another being ever again. But using just words to describe the thing is not very useful for scientific inquiries. We can give certain descriptive attributes a finite numeric value instead. If the horrific monster and bikini model were on a beauty scale, the monster can be given the value of 0, the model can be given the value of 10, and the once vague and ambiguous construction worker can now be given the value of 6. This 6 can be added with other people's subjective opinions to discover how aesthetically pleasing does this shoe appear to be to the average customer. IQ tests, political compass tests, personality tests, and even spiritual gifts tests all belong to this category of qualitative measurements. They're especially common in psychology, sociology, criminology, and marketing. As a psychology major myself, I've enjoyed the process of turning subjective phenomena from multiple brains into tests and concepts so tangible and concise that nearly objective correlations emerge from the plethora of subject-derived data. Now, I should make one additional aspect on this subject of objectivity clear. I am well aware that my definition of objectivity is different from the current common definitions. My subjectivity definition is fine, but the objectivity view is wayward. You see, it makes sense when creating new compound words to stick with the accepted meanings of the root words. So it is my subjective opinion that the object in objectivity should be the focus, not just the sticking to the facts without bias. Hopefully, my definition makes the sticking to the facts easier for you in the future by recalling just the objects in a testimony. To conclude this chapter, now pay attention now. You can easily recall all 6 dimension types by picturing a Dairy Queen blizzard quickly melting in the sun. DQ, quickly melt. The dimensions are quantitative and qualitative. These are subjective and set apart from the objective: mass, electromagnetism, length, and time. The dimensions are quantitative and qualitative. These are subjective and set apart from the objective: mass, electromagnetism, length, and time. That sounds ridiculous. Mash with the mar. Ash with the mar. And that's the end of chapter 5.